Hold on to it against a Notre Dame team that was #1 just a few weeks ago. And with that, good afternoon, Anish Shroff, Paul Carcaterra. It's funny how things work. Last year, Duke and Notre Dame, these were the first two teams out of the tournament. Now they're the first two teams in the polls.
Yeah, both teams had top 10 RPIs, and if you watch them play late in the season, you know they both could have done damage in the NCAA tournament, but I think it's given them a purpose and drive from the offseason. Starting last May to now, these teams have purpose.
Yeah, they look like championship weekend teams, Memorial Day teams, and the superstars for both of these squads, there's some shared history here.
Oh, Pat Kavanaugh is from Chaminade, rival school St. Anthony's. That's where Brennan O'Neill is from. But Pat Kavanaugh is the ultimate quarterback. He's the best passer in Irish lacrosse history. He dissects a defense, but he can also have some shake and ability to get to the rack on his own. And I love this attack unit. Brother Chris plays the right wing, takes pressure off of him, and Jake Taylor inside is a masterful finisher.
Pat Kavanaugh, now Notre Dame's all-time assist leader. Meanwhile, Brennan O'Neill coming off a monster game in the win against Virginia last week.
There's the other Long Island guy. He's an absolute beast and a force. 6 goals, 3 assists against Virginia. Almost a perfect game if you ask me on 9 shots. The flair for the dramatic, the ability to get underneath. A guy that big, that strong should not be that skilled, but he is, and he's got a line as well. Andrew McAdory is a fast, straight-line dodger, and Dyson Williams, a lot like Jake Taylor, owns the inside.
The face-off circle will be something to watch. Jake Naso among the very best in the country for Duke. Will Lynch has been up and down, but he's coming off his best game of the season, best game of his career against Syracuse.
And if you look at their history, they are almost even in terms of when they go head-to-head. So the career stats, the season stats, throw them out the window.
And Naso comes away with the opening face-off. Great crowd here at Arlotta Stadium, 1 versus 2. Notre Dame hosted Virginia a few weeks ago when the Irish were #1. Duke, the 3rd team in the ACC this season to hold that top spot. And the Blue Devils get set on attack. Charlie Balsamo, Garrett Ledman, who's got the ball, and Aiden Denenza, the starting midfield. Ledman has played like an All-American this year as a 5th-year senior. Now Brennan O'Neill with his first touch, marked by the former Yale star, Chris Fake. Andrew McAdory now, looking to get the step on. Chris Conlon, the Holy Cross transfer. Ledman's got the short stick, doesn't have an angle. Notre Dame so good at the slide and recovery on defense. And O'Neill turns it over looking for his high school teammate from St. Anthony's, McAdory.
The matchup between Fake, 7 in white, O'Neill, 34 in blue, I think's a masterful type of one-on-one battle because of their skill sets too. Fake loves to play the body. He's a bruiser. If O'Neill tries to get into the body, he's going to feel Fake. A lot of times O'Neill dictates the physical matchup. Today, Fake is the type of guy strength-wise that can match O'Neill.
Eric Dobson, 8 in white, and he turns it over looking for Jake Taylor. Park, this Notre Dame team, we sort of expected a scorched earth mentality out of the gates after how last season ended. They started 6-0, 4 wins by 10 or more goals. There's a purpose to this team. They've heard it plenty of times. They've done everything as a program except win a national championship. This could very well be the year.
Pat Kavanaugh, other captains like Max Maniak, they posted last year's bracket in the locker room.
In every player's locker.
Yes. Pat Kavanaugh told me before the game he hasn't cut his hair since last year.
Nothing wrong with that. O'Neill feeding inside, shot, no. That was Grant Mitchell. Loose in front, Mitchell on the rebound, and it's 1-0 Duke. Second goal of the season for Mitchell, who had missed 5 games during the year with a lower body injury.
This is vintage Duke in terms of just rolling out some guys that haven't been key factors in your offense throughout the year. Anish, you mentioned Mitchell, who's a transfer from Ohio State, missing the action, and the midfield was a question mark for me coming to the season. Garrett Ledman solidified that. The freshman Charlie Balsamo solidified that. Ledman was quiet the last couple of years. He's playing incredible. When you get those complementary players to play with Ledman, to play with Balsamo like Mitchell, this unit starts getting deep at the right time.
First face-off violation of the half against Notre Dame. And there's the matchup again, O'Neal and Fake. In 2018, Fake, as a true freshman, was arguably the best defender in the country on that Yale team that won a national championship.
Do you know who he guarded every day in practice? Where he earned his stripes? Yet, who won the Tewaaraton Award. Yale's unbelievable attacker who brought that school a national championship in 18. And when you're guarded by a freshman, getting those kinds of reps, that's where the confidence really blossomed for Fake.
Here comes McAdory. He's got the short stick. Carter Parlett. McAdory snaking inside. And he ran out of real estate running into Ben Ramsey.
This is a defense in Notre Dame that communicates beautifully. They always had, over the years, those kind of guys that just own the inside, right? The Eddie Glazner types, the Garrett Epples. Coughlin's one of those guys who can communicate, the transfer from Holy Cross. That's critical for a Kevin Corrigan defense, along with Ryan Wellner, to have those guys.
Ramsey threw it behind his man. Pat Kavanaugh tracks it down, saving the turnover. Now Kavanaugh racing down the alley. Notre Dame's all-time assist leader. Marked by Kenny Brower. That's a good matchup there. Brower, one of the top cover guys in all of Division I.
The season ended today in the ACC. He's my ACC Defensive Player of the Year. He's been incredible.
Bryce Walker from Austin, Texas fires. A save made by William Helm. Division III transfer from St. Lawrence, where he was a second-team All-American. There's the Notre Dame ride, and it's the two Kavanaughs, Pat and Chris, converging, but they'll say Notre Dame touched it last out of bounds to Duke.
When you clear the ball against Notre Dame, watch where 50 and 51 are at all times. They are pit bulls. Some of the best ground ball players on the roster as well. You expect your defensive midfielders, your middies, to own that category. Not a Kavanaugh.
John Danowski saying you have to be aware of 50 and 51 on the clear. And he added, you're never safe.
Never. They are relentless. Love the sport of hockey. They get that low center of gravity approach to ground balls, great wrists. And then fearless is probably the biggest factor.
O'Neal plays it back to Caputo. A few years ago, a 20-goal scorer. He anchors that second midfield. O'Neal looking to shake Fake. Good defense there by the former Yale transfer.
See that? He wants the body. 7 in white wants the body of O'Neal.
Mitchell's got the short stick. Tevlin, another former Yale transfer. Tevlin, a Yale captain. He does everything for Notre Dame. Good look here. And stopped by Entenmann. That shot by the Lehigh transfer, Tommy Schelling. Both these teams have business schools that are attractive to a lot of folks, and as a result, they attract a lot of transfers.
Two business schools that I would have had no business getting into.
You and me both. Eric Dobson, junior with 18 goals, had 5 points against Syracuse last week.
6'5", 235. When you see him on the field pregame, he looks like an NFL tight end.
Here comes Dobson. Fires, and he beats Helm low. He had the short stick matchup on Jack Gray, and he said, come on for a ride.
A wrap check in playing the body will not work. He will swat that, he will eat that check, and he will find pay dirt. Dobson is a lefty. They flush him down the alley. They think they're safe in terms of his location, but astutely what he does is he finds a way to put it back in his right hand, and there's no slide there, right? Like when Dobson has the ball, you have to be on red alert. Like you have to support that short stick matchup. 6'5", 235 going against Jack Gray, who's been phenomenal this season, still needs to support.
Another face-off violation on Notre Dame. That's 2. One more, and Duke will have a 30-second man up for every successive Irish face-off violation until halftime.
Yeah, we talked about that Chaminade-St. Anthony's battle with O'Neal and Kavanaugh. Naso and Lynch. Naso from St. Anthony's, Lynch from Chaminade.
Here's Dinenza, he's from St. Anthony's, and that shot wide. Dyson Williams, he's Canadian. McAdory goes to work against Conlon. Spins it back to Balsamo. He went to Chaminade. How do you want to attack Notre Dame's defense?
Well, I think Dyson Williams is a critical factor, just like Virginia had Peyton Cormier and Xander Dixon inside having career-type days. That's got to be part of the recipe. Giving it to O'Neal when there's a sliver of an inside opportunity. Right, you use O'Neal as your primary dodger, and McAdory can be a good passer off that to find Dyson Williams. So start the offense with O'Neal, but end it with Dyson Williams inside. Because they always give you a little bit of the inside.
They force you to make the tough pass in traffic. Entenmann with a nice save on the fire from Ledman. Jalen Seymour, sophomore from Long Island, 26 in white, carries down the alley. And now Pat Kavanaugh over to his brother Chris. Chris Kavanaugh against the short stick. There's the slide. Jack Simmons lost it, and Duke will set up its clear as Pat Kavanaugh tries to swarm Wilson Stevenson.
Yeah, Wilson Stevenson has had a fantastic 5th year. He's a 5th-year senior, leads the team in non-face-off ground balls.
2019 Duke Notre Dame quarterfinal. Stevenson suffered a gruesome leg injury that required multiple surgeries. At one point, they worried about amputation. And he hasn't just made it back. He has become one of the premier defenders now in this conference.
And it's not just the inside. He owned Sam Hanley on the one-on-one game when they played Penn and beat them earlier in the season. It's not just him playing off ball.
Flag coming against Notre Dame. Free possession for Duke. O'Neal trying to get free from Fake.
Technical foul, 24 white, hold 30 seconds. 24 white, hold 30 seconds. Reset the shot clock to 6 seconds.
That's Ben Ramsey, sophomore from California. So Duke will go on the man up, 43% down the season. Notre Dame holding opponents to below 40 with a man down.
You have O'Neal, the outside shooter. Williams dominates the inside. McAdory's the passer, 2 in blue.
McAdory faked it, now gets it to O'Neal. They spin it back to Dinenza. Less than 10 seconds on the extra man. Duke unable to get a shot so far. And now back to even strength. Crease feed hit the ref. That's a break for Duke. That was destined to be a turnover. Schelling recovers. And now Duke goes to work 6-on-6. O'Neal fires, saved by Liam Entenmann. His 4th. And Duke was in the crease. Notre Dame ball.
Phenomenal save by Entenmann, and he makes it look easy because of his base, right? His base is so wide. He's 6'3", long wingspan, just gobbles up those shots. You know, in the international game, stylistically, he's a lot like Dylan Ward from Team Canada, who's been MVP of the World Championships. We just saw Duke on the extra man. One player who I think could help this unit is Garrett Ledman. on the outside. If you had him and O'Neal outside, then you have to press out, and I think there's going to be a lot more inside opportunities.
McCann back to Riley Gray for Notre Dame. Dobson has the short stick. Gray. This time Duke slides. Dobson had the right idea. The feed to Kavanaugh. Chris Kavanaugh could not hold on. Quinn McCann tries to scoop it. Loose ball. It comes to Pat Kavanaugh.
That's where Eric Dobson, 8 and white, is involved. He can pass now.
Yeah. He's become a complete midfielder. Riley Gray coming off a hat trick against Syracuse. Another crease feed, right idea, looking for Chris Kavanaugh. Boy, they've been close.
You know, you feel the nerves of 1 versus 2, right? Because both of these teams are averaging over 15 goals a game. You feel like, can I make this play, or am I worried about a mistake? I think this game's going to open up soon.
Like 2 boxers throwing jabs early on. Balsamo skips it wide.
This is McAdory at X now. Was a midfielder a year ago. They wanted a calming presence behind the cage, and he's the ultimate lacrosse player.
Denenza machetes through the defense and scores on the bouncer.
Denenza has come up big, consistently getting a goal or 2 a game in the right spots. Everyone's worried about O'Neal. McAdory. Don't forget double 8s.
Let's do it.
Come on, Dad, get me.
Lead here.
1 point was 2 and 4, and then you insert Jake Taylor and everything changes. They were red hot late in the season. Taylor with the behind the back. Brendan O'Neal was dominant once again in terms of his physical force and skill. Dobson, the flamethrower from outside. The Irish one, everyone thought, okay, they're going to be fine for the NCAA tournament. Not so fast.
Everybody except the selection committee, and not to relitigate the past, but that game that Duke and Notre Dame played at the end of last year, the regular season finale for both, Irish were down by 5 goals early in the 3rd quarter. Notre Dame closed the game on a 6-0 run. 4th quarter ride was significant for Notre Dame. Duke completely shut out in the 4th quarter. Notre Dame ends up winning. Irish beat Duke twice last year, and the committee's rationale was, even though Duke had a top 10 RPI at season's end, those wins did not count because, according to the committee, Duke was not an NCAA tournament team, and by proxy, that hurt Notre Dame. That has been a motivator for both these teams, more so the Irish, who felt they had a real chance. Pat Kavanaugh and one of his teammates got the bracket from last year's tournament in every player's locker before the season. Pat Kavanaugh told us they talked about it a lot before the season, in the fall. It was a motivator. Once the season started, Kevin Corrigan, Notre Dame's head coach, reminded his team, hey, the new journey starts now.
Flush it.
You got to flush it and move on to this season. Every team, every group has a singular journey. This is now our journey, and they've taken that approach. Listen, both of these teams right now have the look that they could be the last team standing.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to flush it for a minute here, because last year, outside of Maryland, with that run was historical. Undefeated Terps, incredible. One of the all-time great teams. Outside of Maryland, nobody wanted to play Notre Dame or Duke. Nobody, right? You could have argued those are the 2 teams a higher seed wanted no business with.
Meanwhile, Chris Fake brings it into the box. Tevlin back to Pat Kavanaugh. Fake and Tevlin, Yale transfers. Guys who won national championships at Yale. Tevlin was a Yale captain. Fake was the star defenseman on that 2018 championship team.
I think Kevin Corrigan says it best about Brian Tevlin. He's selfless and self-aware, right? What's better in terms of having a teammate with those 2 attributes?
There's Bryce Walker. Had the shot altered at the last second. Chris Kavanaugh has the backup. Tevlin has done everything for this Notre Dame team. He plays long pole on man down. He's been a two-way midfielder. He's on the wings of the face-offs, and he plays the bagpipes as well.
Started, I think, when he was 7 years old, and
that's when you know it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, Ross Bergmaster played the pipes last year and this year and still does. It's a duo now. But because of Tevlin's experience and the way that this team is kind of galvanized together, we can have two pipes, right? First time ever.
Two bagpipers leading the Irish on the field. Doorstep, slam dunk, Jake Taylor. Jake Taylor was the missing piece for Notre Dame a year ago. Then he tears his ACL while playing box lacrosse over the summer. Came back after missing a few games, and he's fit right in seamlessly.
He is the best pure crease attackman in college lacrosse. It's not just because of his hands. It's not just because of the subtle movements he makes to get open. He changes the complexity of an entire offense. When they were 2-4 and they injected him in the lineup, his first game against Syracuse last year, 8 goals, the offense just looked different, right? The spacing was different because he doesn't just get himself open, he gets everyone else open.
And Notre Dame has always had a premier off-ball finisher. Our colleague Ryan Hoff, Mikey Wynn, Will York a few years ago, and now Jake Taylor.
Those guys could actually quarterback from the inside, right? They push
Explain what you mean by that.
Because if you're a really good crease guy, you're communicating all the time about the spacing. You're telling other guys where to go. Hey, I need you left, I need you right. Okay, if another guy's inside, he's pushing a guy maybe so the crease is split. There's a lot of IQ in that spot.
Duke has dominated the face-off X so far. They have won all 5, and Notre Dame has already committed 2 face-off violations, so 1 more. And Duke will have a 30-second to man up for every successive Notre Dame face-off violation until halftime. Charlie Balsamo, the freshman, finding the back of the net, and Duke retakes the lead at 3-2.
This is a big-time move. I don't care if you're a freshman or you're a senior. The first-year stud, Charlie Balsamo, who is used to being harassed his entire career as an attackman with a long pole. Now he comes to Durham. He's getting the short stick, and he has been feasting this season. It's because of his speed, it's because of his awareness, but also, when you watch him play, he is shot ready at all times. He comes out of his escape or out of his release on the dodge. He shoots so quickly once he gets free.
Top 10 recruit coming out of high school, Will Lynch wins the faceoff for Notre Dame. First faceoff won by the Irish. Lynch below 50% on the season, but coming off his best game, 23 out of 33 in Notre Dame's 20-12 win against Syracuse. That was an interesting game last week at the Carrier Dome. Irish had a big lead. Syracuse came back, took the lead in the fourth quarter at 12-11. Notre Dame closed with a 9-0 run. Duke going on the road last Friday in rainy Charlottesville. Kenny Brower shuts down Connor Schellenberger, and Duke comes away with a win, and they took Virginia's #1 ranking. Kavanaugh, that's Pat. Over to Taylor, comes back now to Quinn McCann. McCann left the shot altered by Aiden McGuire. It'll stay with Notre Dame.
And in that game up in the Dome, Will Lynch got some confidence. 7 straight face-offs won in the fourth quarter.
Interference against Notre Dame.
And Anish, you just mentioned Kenny Brower shutting down Connor Schellenberger. Kenny Brower has been shutting down everyone this season.
In the first quarter, the gloves are off. Brower and Fake, they had their moments against Kavanaugh and O'Neal.
Out their lacrosse careers as offensive players. Duke makes a decision. We don't want to leave Jake Taylor. We don't want to leave the Kavanaughs. Well, Ben Ramsey says, if you want to leave me, well, you're going to pay for it.
He wears that number 24, which we saw John Hallenbeck wears so well as another terrific D midi the last few years.
That's where Notre Dame is juiced this year. The middle of the field, they're so deep. You have Quinn McCann and Brian Tevlin and Ben Ramsey.
Big ground ball out of the scrum. It's Stevenson. He lost it. Stevenson gets it back. Dumps it ahead to Will Frizzoli. Now let's see if Duke pushes. You mentioned late in that first quarter, this game's going to open up. We might see it. Naso dropped it, retreats. O'Neal. Cyclones out of trouble. Lost the ball, and it's picked up by the Irish. Will Donovan, the freshman LSM.
Yeah, remember that name. Playing long stick midfield along with Jose Boyer. Donovan has played huge minutes for Kevin Corrigan, defensive coordinator Ryan Wellner. He's a fast, wiry, strong freshman pole who's got a bright future.
Riley Gray out there on the midfield with Dobson and Tevlin. Gray, that looked like a shot. It was backed up by Pat Kavanaugh. And there's the matchup. How should Pat Kavanaugh now attack Kenny Brower?
Yeah, you look at Brower. If you go right-handed on Brower, he's playing to his strength. There's the left that I said he needs to go because he has to play cross forearm against the grain. He'll have way more success up the left goal line extended area.
First shot of the game saved by Helm. Former D3 All-American at St. Lawrence. He reached out to Duke in the offseason. Duke said, sure, we could use some goalie depth. Added 15 pounds as McAdory fires one. Entenmann turns that one away. And then John Danowski got a better look at him in the fall and said, whoa, we might have something in Kaiser William Helm.
Love the nickname.
Next thing you know, there's a battle for the goalie position, and 2 weeks before the season started, Helm was named the starter.
You want to know the craziest thing about Helm? Started playing the goalie position in 10th grade. In 10th grade, in a day and age where everyone's starting to play lacrosse and specialize in 3rd, 4th grade, here comes this guy in 10th grade. Electrical engineering major at St. Lawrence, great grades.
Simmons, the beautiful touch pass, and Chris Kavanaugh there for the gentle tap in. Notre Dame has its first lead of the game.
You know, Simmons, his game has popped this season. Grad transfer from UVA, we've seen him inverting quite a bit from behind the cage. This time it's up top, and he uses his vision to make that feed to the sweet spot, right? If you can get that ball through the heart of the defense, you know Kavanaugh is going to be on the porch, and you know he's going to can it. But a beautiful pass in recognition of where all the pressure was defensively. Coming at Simmons, and the eyes, all the helmets and eyes were up top. Kavanaugh recognized that.
We asked Kevin Corrigan, where has Chris Kavanaugh taken the greatest step this season? And Corrigan's response, where hasn't he? He has improved his game in every area. We see it now, you know, more left-handed acumen. He's become a better passer. He and his brother obviously play off each other so well. Timeout called by Kevin Corrigan. Notre Dame with its first lead of the game. 11:08 to go. Second quarter. There's not one, there's two Kavanaughs in South Bend. We can hear you, Chris. The Irish up 4-3. Anae Schropp, Paul Carcaterra here in South Bend, Indiana. This is the 25th meeting between Duke and Notre Dame since the start of the 2010 season. Both teams have won 12. Now the big asterisk, and it's not really an asterisk, it should be underscored and boldface. Duke has beaten Notre Dame 5 times in the NCAA tournament since then, 3 times in the quarters, twice in the championship. But all those tournament games between Duke and Notre Dame have built this rivalry, all of them hotly contested games that went down to the wire.
Since 2010, Duke has 3 national championships. Notre Dame still searching for the first in program history, and I think this very well may be the year for Kevin Corrigan. I think it's his best team. I think it's his deepest team. In the middle of the field, this team is built differently.
There's Pat Kavanaugh. There's the skip shot save. Helm with the recovery. That was Chris Kavanaugh on the receiving end. It would have been the 10th time this season Kavanaugh has assisted on a Kavanaugh goal. And now the ride.
You're never safe. You are never safe against Notre Dame when the Kavanaughs are riding. And that pass by Chris Kavanaugh.
Pat had the pass.
Pat Kavanaugh with the pass. I mentioned in the open, there's two ways you can look at like a quarterback, right? One is developing your own plays, but then it's the next level, that passing. There's probably two guys in the country that can make that pass, him and Connor Schellenberg.
Jake Taylor, the ball does not stay in his stick for long. Catch, release. It's 3 unanswered for Notre Dame.
This is why you want to prioritize. Item number 1 when you play attack. Never let the defense think they can clear easily, because the extra opportunity when you have skilled offensive players like Pat Kavanaugh and Jake Taylor, you're then going to counter a tired defense, and you can be relentless in the ride, and they're two of the very best. Pat and Chris Kavanaugh, when it comes to riding. Their brother Matt was amazing at it as well. I said it in the Virginia game. If you're a Kavanaugh and you don't ride, don't come home.
If you're a Kavanaugh and you don't ride, you were adopted. Second midfield on for Duke. Shelling Mitchell, and now Owen Caputo, his dad Ronnie, an assistant coach for John Danowski, longtime Danowski lieutenant. McAdory drives down the alley, feeds the crease. Entenmann closed the corner quickly. Liam Entenmann has been terrific, off to a good start after being below 50% the last 2 games.
That's a beautiful pass by Andrew McAdory, a brilliant save by Liam Entenmann.
Now Ramsey against Mitchell. Ramsey has a goal today.
Next time Duke has the ball, there's something I think they can be successful with McAdory in terms of his dodging, because of his experience playing up top as a midi.
Here comes Simmons out of the box, over to Pat Kavanaugh. That one wide. Chris Kavanaugh, the backup, still 47 to shoot. What's that?
You know, McAdory is such a straight line speed dodger. I think if he goes in that spot in between the attack and the midfield at like 10 o'clock, he could give this defense some trouble, because he's so fast. I would put him up top. I know he's a quarterback and playing behind the cage. He's so good in front of the cage too, and he could take a close defender out of his element up top, as opposed to where that guy Coughlin's always playing behind.
Chris Kavanaugh turns, fires, hits the side of the net. Shoveled out by Pat Kavanaugh. That does not reset the shot clock. It hit the net, not the goalpost. Here's Walker. Absorbs the contact. Shot clock down to 5. Inside Tevlin. Shot clock at 3. It comes back. Pat Kavanaugh behind the back to beat the shot clock. Alchemy by Pat Kavanaugh.
Three words, Anish. Sports Center, top 10. Shot clock is down. 3-2 behind the back. Jake Taylor with an incredible backhand, and the flair for the dramatic. The trickeration of Pat Kavanaugh. We see it all the time. That comes from hours in the backyard. That comes from dreaming. That comes from trying the impossible. From spending time with your brothers and saying, I can do this, I can't do this. Yes, you can. It's watching the Thompsons. It's watching the Powells. That's the inspiration. Those guys are backyard driven, and Jake Taylor's hands and awareness. It was almost like house money too, right? He picks it up, 2-1 on the shot clock, go behind the back and give it to Pat.
Almost instinctual, and you talk to Pat and Chris Kavanaugh, they all tell you, they grew up watching the Thompsons, Lyle and Miles, the theatrics, the flair. And there was a lot of substance behind that style, which is true for the two Kavanaugh brothers at Notre Dame right now as we get a whistle.
I always say it's deception. As much as it looks great, the ability or lack of ability for a goalie to track a backhand shot like that, it is so difficult. But also, I go back to saying the backyard as we get this call here.
White, 15, holds, 30-second technical foul.
Duke will be on the extra man, and you'll see Brian Tevlin, 12 in white, who has a short stick most of the time, plays with a long pole and the man down. But going back to that shot, you can go to all the practices, all the organized events, and all the tournaments, and play for all the countless amounts of teams. Plays like that are inspired and are born in the backyard. It's that simple.
Extra man opportunity now for Duke. Notre Dame has scored 4 straight. Can the Blue Devils find an answer? Brennan O'Neill without a point today after 9 last Friday in that win at Klockner. O'Neill plays it to Denenza. And that comes to Entenmann. That play just did not materialize for Notre Dame, or for Duke.
You've watched enough Duke this year. What do you think about my earlier thoughts when I said Garrett Ledman on the extra man on the outside?
Stretch shooter, forces the defense to press out a little more. You can't sink in. And Ledman this year has played like a bona fide All-American.
I think he would give you an extra punch with him on the perimeter and O'Neill on the perimeter. Ledman a righty, O'Neill a lefty. You put those guys up top. Now you gotta press out. You gotta play the shooters, and you have inside guys. Balsamo's crafty inside. Dyson Williams, amazing inside.
This is a Duke team that came into this game playing, I think, the best lacrosse in the country. Here comes Pat Kavanaugh. Kenny Brower staying with him. Now Riley Gray. 3 goals last week. Over to Dobson off the crossbar. Stevenson's got it.
That was an absolute hammer. That ball's traveling 100 miles an hour. You give Dobson time and room with that body and that technique. Ugh.
Ledman comes into the game for Duke, and the Blue Devils just have not been able to get inside against this Notre Dame defense consistently so far.
And that's what I was saying earlier with McAdory. This is a tough defense to alley dodge and have midfield-driven dodges against.
I got Balsamo now coming down the alley, spins it back to O'Neill. Denenza off the crossbar. Woo.
So the up-top Dodgers have struggled over the years against Notre Dame. That's why I was saying, like, that 10 o'clock, that 2 o'clock area in between the attack and the midfield. McAdory's the guy that can do that, right? He has the speed, he has the athleticism. He's played both positions before.
Ledman to Dyson Williams, yes sir.
These hands are magic. And Garrett Ledman is maturing as an offensive player, not just as a shooter and a dodger, but what about this pass? A lot like Dobson when he was able to thread a needle earlier in the first quarter. The defense is sloughed in. They're worried about the inside. Ledman recognizes that. And the last guy you want to leave alone, just like Jake Taylor for Notre Dame, do not leave 51 alone. He's born to score from that area.
He's had at least 2 goals or more in every game this season but 1. Had 3 against Virginia, 5 against North Carolina. Averages 3+ per game in this 2023 campaign. Naso stumbling, a lot of bodies flying, loose ball picked up by the Irish. 27 in white, Ross Bergmaster, one of the dual bagpipers now for Notre Dame.
Yeah, Kevin Corrigan's always looked at face-offs as a team-type win, right? If Will Lynch isn't winning the draw, it's all about the possession. He does some things pressure-wise It's really unique in terms of how he incorporates the full field on the face-off. You saw him do it years ago against Trevor Baptiste, right? He was greatest face-off guy of all time. He was able to find ways to possess the ball even when Baptiste won.
Pat Kavanaugh, right hand bouncer.
I like that take. Drive lefty if you're Pat Kavanaugh. Take Kenny Brower up top.
Now Chris Kavanaugh against Stevenson. Stevenson slipped. We got a flag. It's going to be on Duke. Walker, save, Helm. Kavanaugh shovels it back to his brother Pat. Brower out in the restraining area. Kavanaugh looking to spin away. Eyes up. Notre Dame's all-time leader in assists. Turns, fires, and unleashes a Hadouken. His second goal of the game. It's a three-point afternoon, and it's 7-4 Irish.
The goal is good, and there'll be extra man for 1 minute. We talk about the evolution of Pat Kavanaugh. The strength, the body change between freshman and sophomore year was seismic. And he gets into the body of Kenny Brower on that spot. And I told you, Nish, drive lefty and take Brower up top. When you take Brower up top, he's out of his element. And that is a fearless competitor in Pat Kavanaugh, who is going to attack his defender relentlessly.
It's a 1 versus 2 matchup in South Bend today, and the ACC has seen a few of these in the last few. Boy, they've been thrillers. 2021, Duke in overtime, 12-11 against North Carolina. 2015, Notre Dame on this field beats North Carolina 15-14. Do you remember how that game ended? Evan Connell for UNC picked up a non-releasable, I think, 2-minute penalty at the end of the game. And then Notre Dame scored, what, 3 goals in less than a minute to stun UNC.
Matt Kavanaugh, the hero.
And Matt Kavanaugh had the game winner. Notre Dame beat Syracuse on this field in 2015 as well, a double overtime win. 2010, Virginia, Maryland, when that was an ACC game.
Yep. we got a dandy. Do you remember what Pat Kavanaugh looked like, though, his freshman year? I mean, we talked to him this week, too. Like, he was still going through puberty. His body wasn't fully developed in terms of the way that he could take the punishment in one-on-one matchups in the ACC. He's 15 pounds heavier. We saw a lot of that with Chris Kavanaugh, too. Chris Kavanaugh, just the build, the muscle, the attack approach is different when you're stronger, you're quicker, you're faster, you're more confident. Carrying the ball was a struggle for Pat his freshman year. Now you're seeing him taking that pounding, and the relentless dodging approach that he has is a thing to see. No one wanted that kid really in high school, too. He was an afterthought. Chris was a monster recruit. Pat, okay, you had Matt, we'll take you. Now all he's doing is breaking every single record. He'll leave this school in terms of statistics with another year of eligibility because of the COVID year. There's going to be a big gap.
Duke ready and waiting at the face-off X. Down 3 goals. It matches Duke's largest deficit of the game. So, yeah, what's the recipe here for a comeback for Duke? They're talented enough, we know it. I would imagine you got to find a way to get Brennan O'Neill more involved.
I think you need some transition, too. You know, Jake Naso is fantastic at the dot. He's going to give you these opportunities.
And there was a penalty on Wilson Stevenson, so it's a 3v2 face-off. And it's Jose Boyer from your hometown of Yorktown. His brother Keith plays for Duke. Big weekend for the Boyer family. Notre Dame will call a timeout. 3:41 to go here in the second quarter.
It's a perfect example, too, of how all face-offs aren't created equally, right? Will Lynch could be getting dominated on the face-off dot all afternoon in this first half. But you're extra man, and then you win that face-off to give this unit, which is one of the best in the country, Anish, It's a top 5 man-up unit in the country. They have all the pieces with Dobson on the outside and Kavanaugh feeding, meaning Pat, Chris on the right wing, Jake Taylor inside. So this is not a unit you want to give these extra chances to. So if you're going to win a face-off, if you're Kevin Corrigan, this is the time.
Notre Dame clicking at 62%, 13 out of 21 with the extra man. Irish have a pretty imposing closing slate. Duke today, then North Carolina, at Virginia, and again, North Carolina. Blue Devils get Virginia one more time, but that'll be at Koskinen. Syracuse comes to Durham before finishing the year out against Merrimack. But you wonder what's at stake, 1 versus 2. The stakes are not as high as they were last year when they played in the regular season finale, when it felt like these two teams were playing for a spot in the NCAA tournament, which neither got. You saw Keith Boyer there, 11 and blue a moment ago. His brother Jose, a long stick midi for Notre Dame, as I just mentioned. And
where are they from?
Family.
Where are they from?
No Boots, Yorktown. And a lot of family here today.
Yeah, I saw Dad Jay. Grandfather's in attendance, saw some uncles. I saw them both on the field pregame. Jose was waiting for Keith to come and say hi. Keith was a little reluctant. I actually went up to Keith. Go say hi to your brother right now. They had a nice embrace, a big hug, and wonderful, wonderful young men.
Pat Kavanaugh to Chris Kavanaugh. It's the 10th time this season and the 22nd time in their careers that they've gone Kavanaugh to Kavanaugh for a goal. The Irish with their largest lead, 8-4.
That's why all face-offs aren't created equally. You get the Pat Kavanaugh goal. There was a personal foul on Wilson Stevenson. Will Lynch wins the draw, gives this extra man unit, which has been incredible this season, number 2 in the nation, more opportunities. Chris Kavanaugh in his sweet spot. I love what he does on that right wing, because when he's in a 6-on-6 spot, when he plays that right wing as a shooter, when you extend out to him, he's so good at dodging off of poor approaches, and that's his spot. He can take some quarterbacking away from Pat, but Pat is the guy to run the offense. But Chris on that right wing, he's got a lot of different aspects to his game, and one is stretch shooting that he's gotten a lot better at too because of his strength.
Here comes Stevenson. O'Neal matched up with Fake. Gets free from Fake. Dumps it off to McAdory on the alley. Less than 3 minutes to go, opening half. Duke had a 3-2 lead after 1 quarter. It has been all Notre Dame in this second quarter. Mitchell against Ramsey. O'Neal now backing down Fake. Fake knocks it out of O'Neal's hands. On the ground, bodies flying, and out of the melee, it's Ramsey.
Fake's having a ball game, Anish. O'Neal wants to play the body. Fake is saying, bring it.
McCann the other way. The championship pedigree Notre Dame imported from Yale. Fake and Brian Tevlin, whose off-field leadership, I don't think you can quantify that. Dobson threw it to Gray.
This is the transition I was speaking about. If you can hit and transition, get them out of their base defense.
McAdory, and Notre Dame gets
Look at
back.
that recovery, though, right? The recovery is amazing. You were talking about Tevlin. Yale is a single captain program, right? Tevlin was a single captain a year ago.
And we covered Yale quite a bit. Can you remember another coach talking about a player's leadership the way Andy Shea talked about Brian Tevlin and his leadership at Yale?
No, I don't.
And Tevlin came to Notre Dame and in 6 months was voted a captain by his peers.
Yeah, and Kevin Corrigan was explaining that to us.
Near the crease, lost it. We'll get a whistle. He was in the crease.
Kevin Corrigan was telling us Each player gets 3 votes. You can't just vote for a person. You have to tell, or you have to write why. And it was evident, even in his short stay this past fall, that his impact was felt amongst the team because it was real, it was authentic. I mentioned earlier, selfless, self-aware. Those are 2 things as a captain. What else do you want?
Notre Dame has had the ball for the majority of the second quarter.
Remember when Pat Kavanaugh was quiet in this first quarter? He's got 4 points now, finding his opportunities against Broward.
Dobson! Second goal from Dobson, the assist by Pat Kavanaugh. Notre Dame outscoring Duke 7-1 in this second quarter.
The vision is elite. What impressed me so much about that pass too is Broward was up in him. Like he felt the pressure. You saw Broward throw him off his line. He still throws a dime of a pass to the hardest shooter on the Notre Dame team, who in warm-ups I'm seeing spray time and time again, top shelf type shots. This time, where does he beat William Helm? Down low. There's versatility with the stretch shooter. 6'5", 235 coming at you.
5 points for Pat Kavanaugh in the first half. 2 goals, 3 assists. Final seconds, half number 1. Taylor behind the back, too high. Oh, that would have been something. Instead, Notre Dame will take a 5-goal lead going into half. Garrett.
When you look at the placement on a righty goalie too, William Helm has no shot. Easter
And Eric decided
and
going in the second half.
O'Neal is a next level athlete, right? And I think that he's playing, as Naso loses his helmet there, I think he's playing into Fake's strength. Fake wants to have that bruising type of matchup. Brendan O'Neal has really good speed. I'd like to see O'Neal using more of the offensive zone and get his legs moving and beat Fake in space in a foot race.
Duke has a decided advantage this afternoon in the face-off department. It has not translated into a possession advantage. Notre Dame's been on offense most of the game, and Eric Dobson has got himself a hat trick.
When he's clicking, he is a bona fide first-team All-American talent. As you see, the crowd at Arlada on a beautiful 65-degree day, Easter weekend. Dobson with time and room. It's frightening, man. That shot is moving around 95 to 100 miles an hour when he sets his feet. And you look at the placement on a righty goalie too. William Helm has no shot at that. No shot.
Lynch wins the face-off. Notre Dame now 2 for 2 in the second half.
The assist 17. By the Irish goal scored by Dobson, his third.
Four unanswered for Notre Dame. Irish in the midst of an 8-1 run. Notre Dame won both meetings against Duke last year. Chris Kavanaugh did not have the angle on that shot. Gray does have the backup. Shot clock does reset on the save. Gray against Carpenter. Dobson, who's got 3. Chris Kavanaugh feeding the crease. Pat Kavanaugh between the legs. And the stop made by Helm. He might have had multiple plays on SportsCenter's top 10 if that went in.
There's a little kid right now getting ready to go in his backyard and try that. Push the envelope. The instincts, the improv.
Garrett Ledman has a short stick matchup. McCann toward the crease, shoots, scores. Ledman beating Quinn McCann. Nice roll to beat Entenmann. And Duke with its first goal since Dyson Williams made it 6-4.
Look where this move starts. It starts at that 2 o'clock area, right? You cannot beat Notre Dame when you dodge directly from up top at the alley. You could beat them when you get underneath and you attack at that 2 o'clock range because you're in no man's land. Defensively, you have to adjust your slides differently when someone starts their dodge from there, right? It's not a designated up top dodge. It's not a designated wing or behind. It's that in-between area that I think Duke can have success. I thought it would be with McAdory. This time it was with Ledman.
They are going to get a push with possession on Will Lynch, and Duke has the extra man.
Duke at 42%. They have the skill, they have the shooters. Dyson Williams inside obviously is a player, 51 in blue, that the Irish defense will be on red alert, and it's the outside shooting of Brennan O'Neill. So both lefties, if you get them on the same side, you have to make a decision if you're Notre Dame. Who do you feel is a bigger threat between 51 and 34?
O'Neill's got 20 career man-up goals, cranks, and that is a goal. Brennan O'Neill on the score sheet, his first of the afternoon, and Duke cashes in with the man-up. It's 10-6.
Naso wins the draw. It's the push on Lynch. Gives this skilled Duke offense. Remember I told you have to make a decision? Look who they decide is a bigger threat. It's 51. They've got the 2 white shirts on Dyson Williams. Then it's time and room for Brennan O'Neill. Pick your poison.
I think that probably comes down to trusting your goaltender to stop the shot from outside.
But it's Brennan O'Neill who's shooting. Right?
Listen.
But I get it, man.
You have to make a decision.
You have to. That's why I say you have to put those guys on the same spot, put them in a conflict zone where the defense has to say, I'm more worried about this guy, and then the other counters.
Naso dumps it to McAdory. Could not corral it cleanly. Bergmaster all over him. McAdory now trying to escape the ambush. Naso runs off. Ledman wants it coming out of the box. Ledman attacking Parlett downhill. Ledman against Boyer.
Boyer's so technically sound.
Denenza feeds up top. O'Neill picked up by the shorty. Feeds Denenza low to high. Missed the cage.
When you watch 46 in white and his brother Keith Boyer, 11 in blue, they were schooled by Robbie Dorr, who was a legend in Yorktown and a Johns Hopkins All-American. He was the defensive coach for their high school team. Coached those two and Brett Makar. That guy can coach defense, and his guys are so technically in sync.
I hope St. Anthony's, Chaminade, and Yorktown were on the bingo card. Dyson Williams. That pass goes behind the midfield line. Frizzoli punches it back. It's over and back against Notre Dame. Or rather against Duke, and it's Notre Dame ball. You can only go over and back in the first 20 seconds of the shot clock. Once that shot clock hits 60, you've got to keep it on the offensive half.
That's what I love about Brian Tevlin. In the second quarter, he's playing man down with a long stick. Now he's playing offensive midi. You'll see him run defensive shifts.
Simmons! He had 2 assists earlier, his first goal. Stevenson looked like he was about to get the trail check, and Simmons got just enough separation.
Simmons has had a beautiful day. The Irish faithful love it. You're seeing another gear from Simmons too, speed-wise. I mentioned earlier in the first half, so much of his game has been from behind in the invert. Has had multiple outside perimeter type traditional midfield moves in this game. It's been a difference maker. When they needed a big time goal in the second quarter, he did it with his vision and his passing. This time, pure gas and speed.
Notre Dame double pulled the wings of the face-off. Naso fighting for it. And out of the clouded wrath, it's Donovan, who is then bumped out of bounds. It will belong to Duke. He lost the ball.
The Irish want to push there.
They do.
What an effort by 81, though, the freshman, right? You saw the ground ball ability in traffic.
O'Neal has the one goal. It came on the extra man. His 36th of the season. How about Brennan O'Neal, the junior, fastest to 100 goals in Duke lacrosse history?
Yeah, it's saying something when you have names like Ned Crotty and Matt Danowski, Zach Greer,
Justin Gutterding,
Jordan Wolfe. The list goes on and on. And he did it with a monster X on his back. You could argue that the X was bigger than anyone's when he arrived on campus.
As ballyhooed a high school recruit as we've seen in a long time. Here is McAdory now. Toward the cage. Trying to shake McCann, fires, body save Entenmann, loose in front. Conlon has it. McAdory lost his stick, and Notre Dame sets up the clear.
That's Kevin Corrigan's defense in a nutshell for the last 30 years. Everyone knows where to be. Did you see Quinn McCann in terms of his slide? It didn't matter that McAdory was going to have a short stick on him.
Faith in the system. Ramsey, skip pass, Simmons, Frizzoli with a well-timed trail check. Out of the air, Caputo's got it. Can Duke push? Very little transition today from Duke. Jake Caputo now.
I think Ramsey's tired. 24 in white is tired.
O'Neal, that hit somebody. Boyer the other way. Boyer to Kavanaugh, one more, Tevlin!
He's not supposed to finish like that, Anish. Man down, check. Wings on a face-off, check. Short stick, defensive midfield, check. Staying on the field in the numbers game as an attackman, 12 in white, Brian Tevlin. Not only the finish, but an incredible, beautiful fake on William Helm. Look at the fake here. Catches it, freezes the goalie, and hits the back of the net. Take a bow, Brian Tevlin.
Now, this was a guy in 2019, missed 2 games after donating bone marrow to save a life. He was matched through the Be the Match program, and when he told Andy Shea, I remember Yale's coach Andy Shea telling us, what are you going to say to somebody who is that selfless? Yeah, you got to miss 2 games because you're saving somebody's life. Go do it, Brian.
Yes.
And Yale in 2019 still ended up getting all the way to the national championship game.
Unbelievable. You know, when you're younger, and still goes on now, you play in camp as a young kid in Braveheart. You roll 1 guy, 2 guys out, depending on the rules, and that's how you decide a game in overtime. Those are like your best guys that could play all over the field. He is like a Braveheart gem. He's the guy you'd pick, right? Because he can do everything.
Man of all seasons. Off the turnover, here's Gray down the alley. Dobson from up top, the hammer, Helm extinguishes the fire. The 6-goal lead for the Irish matches their largest of the day. Ledman now. He broke all of Paul Rabel's records at DeMatha in high school. His pass tipped. Tevlin got a stick on it. Dyson Williams able to retrieve. Fake hunting him down. Back to Ledman. Still time to shoot. McAdory now. Little shake. There's a little shamrock from the Duke guy. Andrew McAdory brings Duke to within 12-7.
He's fired up. 2 in blue is feeling it. Last year as a freshman, he had the most productive point season as a midfielder in Duke history. And this time he takes his defender back to his comfortable spot. And Duke behind McAdory isn't going away.
Let's do it.
Come on, Jack, get me.
Ooh, nice play. All right, you go. There you go.
So cute. At Ally, we're helping millions save more for the things that matter most to them. Whatever you're saving for, we're all better off with an Ally.
Get back to work.
Still plenty of time for Duke. Ledman gets past McCann. Has it trail checked.
Another double.
Well timed, and it's a turnover.
Well times the theme.
What can Duke do here to make Notre Dame a little uncomfortable on offense?
You know, I think for starters, outside of Dobson, press the perimeter on the midfield defense. And that's what they're doing right here. You have Pat Kavanaugh as an attackman, but you got to press a little bit. You got to trust your athletes. I think pressing Dobson is tough because of how big and physical he is.
Chris Kavanaugh maneuvering. Helm saw that all the way.
And Dobson can eat checks, right? You saw it in the first quarter. But make these other midfielders in their exchanges feel uncomfortable. Maybe you'll get some transition off it too, because I think Duke has really improved at the short stick defensive position, right? Jack Gray has been awesome this season. Aiden McGuire, the freshman, big time upgrades. Caputo.
Schelling feeding Dyson Williams. And it's 12-8, the second goal for Williams, who's now scored at least 2 in 11 of Duke's 12 games.
The timing of this cut, watch Dyson Williams behind the cage. The timing of this cut and then the release all within 1. That is high-end off-ball offense by Dyson Williams. He's behind the cage. He just sniffs out the fact that Notre Dame might be more concerned with where the ball is. Schelling makes that pass through the defense, but it's the cut of Dyson Williams, to me, that popped, right? Because he's behind the cage, he's kind of lulling the defense to sleep a little bit, and he cuts and catches and shoots all in one.
Naso wins the face-off, tripped. Gets it over to McGuire. McGuire all the way, bounce shot, score! And a little juice, a little energy on the Duke sideline. Blue Devils within 3.
You have Naso as Duke Nation, and the parent section's going wild. So you're going to be in the game. You're going to get chances. You're going to get looks. What a play by Naso as he falls. McGuire and Jack Gray, the 2 upgrades I said from their defensive midfield from a year ago, both played offensive midi in high school. So they're comfortable in transition.
McGuire, a freshman, with his 2nd career goal. The other came against North Carolina.
We got a game
And in that North Carolina game, how vital was Naso winning faceoffs and creating early offense like we just saw?
Yeah, Naso is such a tough kid because he doesn't even have a guy who spells him a little bit.
He's taken more than 1,000 faceoffs in his career. McGuire had it momentarily, still loose. Frizzoli scoops it up. Looking to play to McAdory. Big ground ball, out of bounds. It belongs to Duke. 3 unanswered for the Blue Devils. You got 4:10 to go in the third and an entire quarter to play, and you can feel the pendulum swinging.
You're absolutely right. Duke is making that run. Notre Dame with the crowd behind them. It is so critical to counterpunch here. If you're Notre Dame, you're Kevin Corrigan. Where's the counterpunch? You didn't have it 2 weeks ago late in the game against Virginia. Do you have it today?
Mitchell against the short stick. Dyson Williams had a good look. Caputo the backup.
Yeah, the rules don't apply to Dyson Williams like they do normal free
Canadian,
yeah.
right?
And Jake Taylor's the same way. If you think he's covered, he's not.
Box lacrosse background. Less space to operate. Shelling now the Lehigh transfer over to Caputo. Mitchell. Saved by Entenmann. If Duke gets it, it resets the shot clock. It does, and now Notre Dame's got to really dig in on defense. It's a long possession. Now this is a real chance for Duke.
This is his spot. McAdory likes being up top. So comfortable all his years playing midfield. If you get him in space, straight line speed type dodging.
O'Neal, Mitchell, Entenmann made the save. Or did he? The shot clock did not reset. Ball was tipped. O'Neal skip pass. McAdory. Still plenty of time, 25 to shoot. Mitchell's got a goal today. Feeds inside, turn, shot, Shelling. And it's picked up by Entenmann. Big hold defensively by the Irish.
And a big stop.
Ramsey caught the pass. Frizzoli all over him. Ramsey eluding the pursuit. Like a punt returner.
Yeah, clearing's not free today.
We saw Notre Dame head football coach Marcus Freeman roll into the booth earlier. He was with you guys a few weeks ago. We've turned him into a lacrosse fan.
Absolutely. His team showed up at that Virginia game in the third quarter, and this place erupted.
Here comes Gray sprinting down the alley. Stevenson all over Gray. Throwing that wrap check. Gray still holding on. Now Griffin Westland. Westland a couple of years ago was the team's second leading point scorer. Westland had a great look from the wing, just too high, and Griffin Westland's a guy who could have gone somewhere else and played. Wanted to be a part of what Notre Dame is building toward, and stuck around despite being passed on the depth chart by guys like Jake Taylor.
And you win with guys in the locker room like Westland and Marco Napolitano.
How did Pat Kavanaugh sneak that in?
I don't know. This is crazy. Helm's a righty. He's hugging the pipe. There is no net. What did I tell you, though, in the first quarter? Drive left-handed on Brower. Brower's a lefty. Make him go cross-forearm. Make him a little uncomfortable. He loses his base a little bit, but still the defense is there. He's smothering Kavanaugh. And once again, the added strength and how fierce he is in terms of his attack mode, right? Like the motor doesn't stop. So you're offline. He's made an offline pass that resulted in a goal. Now this offline shot. Like when you lose your core and you lose your balance as a shooter, you're done. Pat Kavanaugh wasn't.
I think the Death Star had a smaller opening than what Kavanaugh snuck that through. Flag in the air. It's a delayed penalty against Notre Dame. Final minute, third quarter.
Be a push on the Irish.
Duke is trailed by as many as 6. Got to within 3 at 12-9 before the Kavanaugh goal.
I'd like to see Brennan O'Neill have some more picks come his way, right? Because Fake's playing really good defense. Set some picks for 34 and blue. Just give him a little bit more space to operate.
Denenza back to Ledman. The hammer denied by Entenmann. And now the penalty, so Duke will go man up for the final 30 seconds of this third quarter. Blue Devils 1 for 3 with the extra man.
And the reason I bring up the picks too, Anish, if you set the picks, O'Neill's a really good passer. The rest of the defense, when you play the pick game, has the eyes on the Dodger. There are moments in time where you can then force feed the crease a little bit with the pick game. And who's the guy inside who can finish everything? Dyson Williams.
These games that we've seen now, Notre Dame, Virginia, Virginia, Duke, Duke, Notre Dame, doesn't feel like just a regular season game, does it?
No. Need an ice bath after that.
Time running down on this extra man. Denenza feeding the crease, turnover. Quarter number 3 in the books. Notre Dame at home against the #1 team in the country. The Irish would be in that top spot if they hold on, or can Duke pull off a fourth quarter rally?
I am free, 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 free. I am free.
Spend $400 between now and April 8th and get a free ham.
Oh, I'm free, baby.
That's the stat I'm looking for.
Almost a true face-off win percentage.
Yes, that leads to an offensive possession for your team. That's what's important to me.
Kavanaugh with a 7-point afternoon. Gold helmet glistening, working on Brower.
You see how stronger Brower is, though, when you drive to the right side and he plays through strength?
Chris Kavanaugh wins the matchup against Jake Caputo. And for the younger Kavanaugh brother, that's a hat trick. Team leading 29th goal of the season.
You know, we were talking during the week how much better from last year to this year Chris Kavanaugh's left hand is. Last year, he was always on that other side with the right hand. This time, they're shading him, forcing him right. He's like, okay, you want to make me go right? I'm going to make you pay. And you saw the pop on that first step, and then the shooting in motion. A thing of beauty. Two-handed attackman. Unless you're a Canadian, you need two hands.
There comes Hagstrom. Sandwiched. Pat Kavanaugh to his brother Chris. 15-9 Notre Dame for Pat Kavanaugh. 3 goals, 5 assists today. For Chris Kavanaugh, 4 goals today. Double-double, toil and trouble.
You see him dodging up the left wing, goal line extended area for a shot. And this time, flips to the other side and finishes in tight. The game is complete. You know the name, you know the number. The number 50, since Matt Kavanaugh stepped on campus, became something. And the youngest brother, there's 6 of them in the Kavanaugh family, as tough as nails, in making older brother Matt proud.
Pat Kavanaugh now in his last 3 games against Duke has 13 assists. Brennan O'Neill over to Dyson Williams. You brought this up to me before the game, how it's interesting how some of these teams match up with each other. Duke, we know, has had Virginia's number for almost 20 years. Notre Dame of late has had Duke's number. Virginia has Notre Dame's number.
Yeah. You know, outside of the playoffs, Notre Dame has been very successful against Duke.
Entenmann with the save. I think Duke will take that, though. You want the regular season wins?
Yeah.
We'll bank them in May.
This Irish team's going to be one tough out.
I look at these three in the ACC right now, the top three. You know, three legitimate heavyweights in Notre Dame, Duke, and Virginia.
And when they beat each other, they're not going to drop much.
Well, that's the benefit for the ACC this year. Last year, they took some hits in non-conference, and then these conference losses started to hurt your resume and hurt your RPI. This year, these teams are 1, 2, 3 in the RPI. Losses don't hurt you. Wins only help you, and the beneficiary of that, teams like a North Carolina, teams like a Syracuse, if you steal one against one of these big three, all of a sudden you move either into that conversation or closer to that conversation for getting in.
You know, not to mention some of the other teams out of the ACC, when they stumble as well. Look at Cornell. Like, Cornell was the one team everyone thought, okay, maybe they're a top 4 team. Maybe they are, but they stumbled. They lose to Harvard, unranked team.
Brown's another one. Brown has become minesweeper in the Ivy. Low RPI, lost a bunch of games with a lot of their players out. Now back with their full complement. Different team, they're beating people.
The Ivy tournament's going to be awesome for a lot of different reasons than last year, right? That was the year of the Ivy, so you got to sell the stars and see great lacrosse, and all 4 teams were making it. Now, whew, there is a lot on the line. Is it a 1? Is it a 2-bid league? It's not a 3-bid league. You see any scenario that's a 3-bid league?
Yes.
You do.
If Cornell and Penn were to get an at-large, they certainly still have the resume for it.
And
a
one
team
of the
like
other
Princeton
teams wins
and Yale,
the tournament,
Brown won
those
the
teams
tournament.
have to win the tournament.
Right, they would have to get the AQ. And that's going to be over and back.
You know, I love the varied approach of Notre Dame's dodging today. If you had one of those charts, you know, like in basketball where all the goals are coming from, it is so balanced. This offense has done it inside with Chris Kavanaugh and Jake Taylor. It's done it from the outside with Dobson, step downs, dodges from behind the cage, righty and lefty with the Kavanaughs. Chris Wojcik, the offensive coordinator, the adjustments he's been making, and with this personnel.
Flag down. Bounce shot score. So Riley Gray got leveled on the pick, picks himself up, and then scores on the bouncer. And Notre Dame extends to its largest lead of the game, 16-9. Really, since the first quarter, it has been all Irish.
The penalty was a technical for 30, wiped out with the goal. The ball's bouncing the Irish's way. And there's the evolution of Dobson, too. His first 2 years in South Bend, big, strong shooter. Dodger lefty gets to the rack. You saw a righty goal today. You saw some feeding and the awareness to understand where the defensive pressure is. Like, bring those defenders with you. You kick it back to Riley Gray, who has time and he has room to make that move.
Face-off violation, procedure call on Duke. I go back to what Pat Kavanaugh told us a few days ago. In his now 4th year at Notre Dame, he's never seen this type of buy-in. He's never seen this sort of commitment. They were hurt by not getting into the NCAA tournament last year. We left championship weekend, and you, myself, Quint, Chris Cotter, we're all in Albany for the first weekend of the PLL. You've got a team there, the Redwoods, which is made up of
a lot of Notre Dame
former players. And to hear them talk about, you know, their communication with the current guys on the team as Kavanaugh with a blaster. He's got 5. The point is, this team was highly motivated coming into this season, and we sensed it the first week of June last year.
Look at the pop and the explosiveness. It's a stutter, 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 right? So you lull the defense to sleep, and then it's all gas and acceleration. And it's what you would call what?
Little penthouse parm.
That's what it was.
With a little legalized marinara on top.
I won't say it, man. I would love to have penthouse parm, right? That would fit me as an Italian guy. I just can't say it. You own it. If I bought it off you, you'd never be able to say it again. That would be the deal. But look, going back to Pat Kavanaugh, what he said was telling also. The message has been clear. You're guaranteed 12 games this year. That's it. Based on the way that the committee did things last year, 12 games. That's all you're guaranteed.
Naso, save Entenmann. You and I have an hour-and-a-half drive to Chicago after the game to catch a flight.
Is it really only an hour and a half? We're going that
Buck
fast?
45. We can negotiate on the way. 17-9, Notre Dame.
Negotiating with a guy from Jersey is not an easy
You're from
task.
Yorktown. It could get heated.
And so much of the success is guys like Quinn McCann, who's on the ball now. This two-way midfield group, as Balsamo takes McCann to the rack, has been a mainstay. But there again, look where he starts his dodge. I've been talking about 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock a lot today. Because I feel like you just take the defense out of their comfort zone, right? The communication, the timely slides, not there. Is he going behind? Is he taking it to the wing? And Balsamo, who was an attackman in high school and a top 10 recruit, he is as crafty as it gets. Like so smooth with the left hand, the two-handed cradle, always shot ready. And this Duke team, made up of a bunch of superstars, down 7 on the road, backs against the wall.
Brothers as teammates. They've given us some of the best duos the sport has seen. Gary and Paul Gate won 3 national titles at Syracuse. You played with Casey and Ryan Powell.
They spoke a different language, right? The unspoken language on the field. The Bernhardts, Terp Nation in between the lines. For Jake, Jesse, the shutdown defender. Miles and Lyles gave us just must-see TV. 2014, they shared the Tewaaraton Award. Magical moments, and now Chris and Pat bringing it to South Bend. The common denominator with all these offensive brothers, they push the limits in terms of the creativity, right? Because when you have a contemporary, you have a brother, you have a best friend that you're sharing all those moments together at home, in the basement, in the backyard. Whatever one does, the other wants to do better, right? You bring out the best in each other.
I remember hearing the story with the Powells. They would take, a bag of flour to paint lines in their backyard. And it was on a very micro level. They took it that seriously. You mentioned a lot of those wars and battles in the backyards. That's where the creativity is born. You and your brother, I know you didn't play together.
He was a goalie, and I was a shooter. I became better at shooting because of him in the goal.
Dyson Williams cashes in. A hat trick for 51. What else is new? 8th of the season where he's had 3 goals.
And you want to talk about family connections. Dyson's dad, Sean's one of the great indoor players of all time. And he grew up watching his dad play in the professional indoor leagues in Canada and the United States, and picked up so much of his game, and finishing is at the top of all that. What's so impressive about Dyson Williams is he catches, shoots, all in one motion. A lot of times you're not even locating the goal. Like a lot of times I see his goals, I'm like, how does he know where that's going? He's not even looking at the cage.
He, Jake Taylor, there are others. The ball is hardly in the stick. If you add it up, the total amount of seconds they've got the ball in their stick for the course of a game,
it's less than 20, right? Has Dyson Williams had the ball more than 20 seconds?
I would take the under.
No. Yes.
Yeah. McCann on the run, bumped by Jake Caputo. Taylor kicks it back.
What a ground ball.
And who else? A Kavanaugh out of the scrum.
It's not all glitz and glamour and bright lights. It's the dirty work, too. Of all these guys on the offense, too, when you think about it. They make it contagious. When your leaders and your best scorers are some of your best ground ball guys, like that changes the mentality of the way that you play. If these guys can get dirty, we all have to.
And that's one theme that keeps coming out of South Bend. The connectivity of this Notre Dame team, the leadership. Now, Kevin Corrigan said, it's not a lot of hand-holding I've got to do with this team. Players police themselves. Players take accountability. It is a player-led team, and you hear that as a cliche an awful lot. Now for Notre Dame, you just get the sense, as close as they've been in some years in the past, they've got a real chance this year, maybe the best chance they've had under Kevin Corrigan.
It takes buy-in. It takes buy-in from the guys like Griffin Westland, who was the second leading scorer on the team a few years ago. Marco Napolitano, who waited 3 years to become a starter. That is the buy-in that changes everything. And then the buy-ins with the second team, right? That practices so hard that never gets in. Some of those guys are seniors who've seen their position taken by younger guys or a guy in the transfer portal. That is a tough pill to swallow. And when you can do that, and the team can come together, and your guys who aren't the stars, who aren't getting in or are part of the buy-in, it changes everything.
They're going to get Stevenson here. So essentially a free possession for Notre Dame until the man up. Tevlin skip picked. We'll get the call, and the Irish back on the extra man.
Got the extra man. And how about how clean this Irish team has played, right? Like the lack of turnovers in this game.
Only 8 turnovers, which they've offset with 8 caused turnovers.
There's your wash.
Perfect on clears, 20 out of 20.
That's how you can negate the face-off disparity too, right? Where are you going to find those? Where are you going to find those hidden possessions? Well, clear, perfect. Don't turn the ball over. Cause turnovers. Okay, now the Jake Naso effect isn't as hard to deal with as you thought.
Dobson in his career, 8 in white, has 13 extra man goals. Notre Dame 1 EMO goal today.
He's open here. He's open on this left side. He's going to get a step down.
There's Dobson. Pat Kavanaugh over to Dobson. Now Griffin Westland. On a bounce, Pat Kavanaugh to Chris. Less than 10 seconds on the extra man. Westland from the wing, denied by Helm. Duke had a 3-2 lead after the first quarter. All Notre Dame since then. Schelling, who was a top 10 scorer all time at Lehigh before coming to Duke. Owen Caputo didn't have much on it. O'Neal picks it up. Left hand free. O'Neal fires. Antomin another save. Fake cleans it.
There was the speed and the space, right? You saw the speed of Brennan O'Neal.
Sometimes you got to tip your hat to the goalie.
Fake is down. 7 in white. The grad transfer from Yale who's had an unbelievable game.
Chris Fake, a 4-time All-American, Ivy League Rookie of the Year, and a national champion in 2018. His defense on Brennan O'Neill, and again, Notre Dame plays team defense. It's not just one guy, but those one-on-one matchups, they've left him out on an island with Brennan O'Neill a few times, and he has more than held his own. He's almost silenced one of the best players, if not the best player in the country.
The system is there, make no mistake about it. And the help defense obviously takes some pressure off a player like Fake, but this has been the best cover job on Brennan O'Neill unequivocally this season. Case closed. O'Neill 1 point. He's had 3 points in the last 21 straight games.
Had 9 last time out against Virginia, where he was a human tempest. And I'll tell you what, again, with the Tewaaraton for the front runners, it's going to come down to May, and that's the best part of the award.
Yes.
It's handed out after the national championship, and what you do in the postseason matters. But if you're keeping track right now, Pat Kavanaugh is now the clubhouse leader.
It's like the Heisman, right? The quarterback with the hottest hand, and who delivered the biggest punch the Saturday before, right? That's just the reality of it. He's fresh in your mind, but like you said, the beauty of this award is if you can take your team, unless you're just a complete outlier of a talent like a Lyle Thompson.
Or Peter Baum.
Yes. Dylan Malloy, record-setting season in 2016. You need championship weekend. This year, someone's going to need championship weekend to win the award.
Flag down, penalty coming against Notre Dame. After a while, it looked like Connor Schellenberger.
And it still can be.
It can be. Denenza missed the cage. Schellenberger was not effective against Duke. He didn't play against Carolina. C.J. Kirst for Cornell, very much in the mix.
They lose today to Harvard. He still scores 4 goals.
Personal foul, 20 white, cross-check, 1 minute. 20 white, cross-check, 1 minute, reset to 60, please.
That's Chris Conlin, a takeaway artist at Holy Cross.
I think of the attack this year. I think Kirst is the hardest cover, hardest one-on-one sheer cover. I think O'Neill could be the biggest matchup problem in terms of just his creativity and how big he is. I think Pat Kavanaugh, from a dual threat perspective, getting to the rack and feeding, has separated himself. And Schellenberger, he could play that role too, but his health right now, not playing yesterday's in question.
Duke gets one back on the extra man to make it 17-12.
The ball's spinning. Caputo finds a cutting Aiden Denenza, and when you watch him on tape, like, he's one of those IQ guys who knows when to cut, knows when to put up his stick to catch those passes on the extra man. He's had a couple of nice goals today. Denenza's part of that glue type of midfield that I think has taken a big step in 2023 from last year. This midfield's much better this year. Not only the offense, but the two-way guys and the shorties.
And Denenza's one to watch, starting to come along. And that's back-to-back multi-goal games. We'll get a loose ball hold against Duke. Clark, to your point, though, back to the Tewaaraton, the thing with Kavanaugh, the numbers are great. Notre Dame doesn't play as many games as some of these other teams, so in terms of volume, he might not have the raw numbers. Per game, he will.
Yes, look
He's got
at that stat.
3
That's
goals,
what matters.
5 assists today. He's got 5 ground balls and a caused turnover today as an attackman.
2 weeks ago.
And I should mention this because it's important. What he's doing this year, for every ground ball that he picks up, he's donating $10 to City Lax.
Yes. Props to
that
Eamon
is
McEnany, who's one of the leaders of that organization, setting that up, the Notre Dame alum. That is awesome.
It's a great organization, growing the game in the inner cities amongst some of the less privileged who may not have access to it. Our friend, our former colleague, Eamon McEnany, now chairs that organization. And to have a guy like Pat Kavanaugh on board, again, raising awareness for a good cause that legitimately grows the game. That's not going to matter when it comes to the Tewaaraton, but it's another feather in the cap of a player who has done so much.
It's all about the right stuff. And to talk about the ground balls, too. Up until this past week, Chris and Pat Kavanaugh had the most non-face-off ground balls on the team. Now it's Brian Tevlin, but after today, it's going to be Pat Kavanaugh. For your attacker, your top player, to have the most non-face-off ground balls on your team, that says something. Irish Nation has a lot to be proud of. They're standing in South Bend on a beautiful sun-soaked day in the spring. They're Irish. This could be a special season.
That does it. All that glitters is gold today. Number 2, Notre Dame will reclaim the top spot, move to number 1 as they knock off Duke 17-12. Great crowd on hand here in South Bend. Great atmosphere. We have not seen the last of these two. They only play once in the regular season this year, but as it's been for almost the last 15 years, it seems we get a redux every few years of Notre Dame and Duke in the NCAA tournament. And to Duke's credit, that's where they've had the upper hand. Notre Dame with the upper hand today. You look at the top of the ACC, you've got 3 Goliaths.
You do. And credit Notre Dame, a team 2 weeks ago when Virginia was coming back. They didn't have the answer. Today, Duke threw a couple haymakers in the third quarter. The Irish had the answer. That tells me a lot about this grit, the ability to evolve in the leadership with guys like Liam Entenmann, Brian Tevlin, and so many others. This Irish team is rolling. Duke's not going anywhere. They'll be a player as this season wraps in May. Expect both of these Giants, Anish.
4 straight weekends, the number 1 team has gone down, and the next number 1 has come from the ACC. It'll be Notre Dame on Monday. Attackman Chris Kavanaugh tied a career high with 5 goals today. Chris, 3-2 game, Duke on top after the first quarter. What changed?
We just settled down our O. We were kind of all over the place. We didn't have the ball that much, so we just got things rolling on the O end, got comfortable, and diced it up.
Chris, your brother Pat, 3 goals and 5 assists. Where did you see him make the most adjustments in that one-on-one matchup with an All-American and Kenny Brower?
We did a lot of film on that. I think he does well on Kenny. He was picking his spots, so we got him up top a lot this game, and we were going behind too, so I think he did a great job with him. Kenny's an awesome defender, so happy for Pat. He played well.
Chris, it's a long season, and there's still a long way to go, but describe the scene right now on your left.
Yeah, we're a family. These boys have everyone's back. I love every one of them, and we got a good culture in the locker room. It starts with the senior leadership. We've brought back some old things that the alumni have done in recent years, so I think that's helped us a lot come together, and I can't thank them enough for everything they've done for me.